my basic bitch creamer and I'm ready to go.
I've got myself and no mic to
I know.
to comfort me.
Yes, I know. So, listeners, this is the second time. This is the tenacity that we have for the show. This is the second time that we have gotten together to record this episode on the Last Duel. The first time we were having what we thought were mic issues, but they could be technical issues on Sarah's end, and we're not really sure what's going on. We switched out the mics. I was planning on getting us upgrading our mics anyway, so but I'm not really sure what the deal is. But Sarah's mic is not behaving tonight. Even the new one I dropped off. So we're going with just MacBook Pro speaker. Yeah, it's actually
right
coming
here.
off your headphones. Yeah.
Headphones.
So headphone mic. It's not probably the sound that you're used to, but I'm going to try to apply some sweet filters to it to make it to pump it up a bit. So if the sound is a little different,
to Nicole's end. Just don't listen to what I say.
Absolutely not. Sarah is going to provide valuable insights on the Last Duel tonight, and we're definitely going to hear what you have to say. But if it sounds a little different than what you're used to, listeners, it's because we decided that recording the show was more important than trying to. We're going to continue to figure out what the deal is with the microphone. We'll get it worked out, but we just wanted to talk about the Last Duel. Fuck
it's a really film.
It's a really film. It's really.
Mm-hmm. We'll fill in the adjective later.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of adjectives we can use to describe this film. So tonight we're going to be talking about the Last Duel, obviously. But before we get into that, do you want to get into some Adam and Andy news?
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me pull out my newsboy cap.
Your newsboy cap?
My newsboy cap and my newsies.
One,
my newsies cap.
Listener, she doesn't have a cap. She's lying.
I know. I'm so sorry. But if you'd like to send me one, listeners, you're welcome. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram. I can give you my P.O. box. You can send me a Newsies cap. So I'll just say it. Andy, I don't have any news for Andy this week. I literally have no news.
Andy is newsless.
I don't know what he's doing right now. I assume that he and Maya Rudolph are shooting episodes of Baking It. That's what I assume is going on.
See, in my head, raking it has become a real thing as well.
Oh my God. I don't think we talked about this on air.
We didn't, no.
Sarah, please tell us your pitch for raking it. Raking it with an R. Please tell us
raking it is a yard, like a landscaping reality competition show, starring or hosted by Blair Erskine and who did I say? Who was the man?
Who was that? Was it Chris Hemsworth? Was it Lee Pace?
No.
Who was on? Was it John Hamm?
It was John Hamm. John Hamm. Blair Erskine and John Hamm.
The Hamaconda.
Yes.
Our friend Blair Erskine is now a comedy writer on Jimmy Kimmel. She's very funny. She had some viral videos take off on Twitter, and she is one of our hometown comedians from the ATL. She's super funny. Really excited for her and everything that's happened for her.
Very sweet, very talented.
Yeah. Now, and what did you see her segment on Jimmy Kimmel?
Yes.
I was blown away. I was like, I can't believe this is happening. So very happy to see a hometown comedian making it big. I believe she's now relocated to LA, but So Sarah's pitch was a landscaping competition with Blair Erskine as the host and John Hamm. So if any of you guys call our people and we'll call your people and Sarah will pitch you this idea. But
yes,
I am on board.
We need the trifecta. We need the making it, the baking it, and the raking it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because who doesn't want to watch John Hamm, in a tank top, trimming bushes,
telling people what to do in his shorts.
He must wear shorts. John Hamm has some meaty tree trunk thighs.
He does
under those slacks. I'm sorry. This is not a podcast where we objectify John Hamm. It's a podcast where we objectify Andy Samberg and Adam Driver. That is our band. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry, guys, to deviate. But yeah, I don't have any news for Andy. I assume he's working on baking it, probably. I know he's recording voiceover for that video game that we talked about. We
Mhm.
know that Transylvania 4 is coming out in January, but that's been in the can for a while. I assume he's probably, I don't know, maybe taking a break, developing some other projects now that Brooklyn Nine-Nine has ended, but it's been a little quiet on the Andy front. So I didn't see anything big come up this week. Of course, listeners, if anything comes up, you can tweet at us at AdamAnyPod. Let us know if you get any Andy news. Please give us some Andy news. I didn't
Maybe he's
find
catching
anything
up
this
on
week.
childcare.
Maybe.
He
Maybe.
spent time with his kid.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, he's perhaps taking a well-deserved break or working on things that we don't see right now that will be coming out
Yeah,
later.
but
I
we
think
will
that's probably
see.
what's going on.
Yeah.
Now, as far as the Adam news, let's see. A couple things that happened since we last talked. Well, there was the SNL skit, or I hate to say the skit. I can't believe I said skit. You know how I feel about the word
Said
skit.
skit.
It's a sketch. I feel like listeners, if you don't know, as comedians, Sarah and I, who have written a lot of sketches, I actually hate the word skit. Like my husband knows that word is triggering for me. If he says skit, I'm like, it's not a skit. A skit is something children do. A sketch is an art form, a comedy art form. There was an SNL sketch with multiple impersonations. You watched it, right? I sent you the link.
Oh yeah, that one. Yeah, that was
So we
great.
had John Oliver, we had Jennifer Coolidge, we had
Mhm.
a
Adam.
great impression of Kristen Wiig.
Oh yes. I was
Fabulous.
like, how did they have an SNL person do an impression of another SNL person?
I mean, it was very meta.
Like, it was
I'll,
great.
yeah, that was a great impression of Kristen Wiig. We also had Pete Davidson doing Remy Malik and Remy Malik doing Pete Davidson, which
That
was,
was
I
great.
think, my favorite part. Now,
Yeah.
but the reason, of course, we're talking about this is that we had someone doing Adam Driver. His name is James Austin Johnson. Is the performer who did Adam Driver. Um, what did you think of
I
that?
think it was probably not the best that I've seen, but it was
Hmm.
definitely like recognizably Adam, like the
They had the
intense
facial
and
hair.
the
Yeah,
yelling
the
and the
yelling. He went with the
yelling.
yelling. He went. Yes, I will not answer this question. He went with the yelling. I feel like if he had, I feel like he needed to consult the rats before. I feel like we could give him a few notes. He did a fine job. But I do. There were a couple things where I was like, ooh, there's like this thing that he does where he bites his lip before he answers a question that he doesn't want to answer. I was like, oh, I wish he had done that. So not to give a fellow actor notes on his impression of Adam Driver, but having watched so much Adam Driver at this point, I feel like,
I've never seen him bite his lip.
ooh,
My
yes,
gosh.
right before he answers a question that he's thinking about really hard. And so I was like missing a little details like that. He did get the sort of like eye twitchy, like, breathless, like after he yells where he kind of like trembles a bit. He
Yeah.
did get that down, so that was a good touch. Um a lot of people were saying he was like the Wish version. You know how when you order something from Wish, it doesn't look quite
Yeah.
like the thing that you thought it would. A lot of people said he was kind of the Wish version of Adam Driver, which, I look, I gotta hand it to that guy. That is not an easy thing to do. To be like the sexiest man, like the hottest man on earth, and do impersonation of him, the sexiest, hottest man on earth. That's like, especially like how on fire Adam's career is right now. It's really that's a tough thing to do, and to
Yeah.
step up there and say I'm going to be Adam Driver this week. That takes some balls. So props to James Austin Johnson. Of course, John Oliver was there too, and I was really wishing
Yes.
there was an opportunity for a joke between
There
them,
was no.
and they
Yeah.
didn't take it. And I wish that they had. I'm not the first person to say that. Other people on Twitter said it
Yeah.
as well. But still, it was a funny sketch. I really do think Remy Malik and Pete Davidson were the highlight of that sketch for me.
Yeah.
But
Totally.
I was also like, wow, like Adam Driver is being impersonated on SNL. Like, I feel like if you're being impersonated on SNL, like you've made it to some degree. Like, you are now a phenomenon, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm hoping that here's what Twitter wants right now is for Adam Driver and Lady Gaga to be hosting. Can you imagine? Like, Lady Gaga is
Both
the
of
musical
them.
guest, Adam Driver is the host, or maybe they're both guests. I don't know, because House of Gucci is coming out
Yeah.
in November. So
Yeah.
I would love to see Adam Driver in a sketch with somebody doing an impersonation of Adam Driver, and I just want them to scream at each other for a while. That's what I
Yeah.
would like, personally.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that'd be amazing.
Let's see what else. Oh, Adam is back in Brooklyn. He was spotted today, actually, in a dog park. So
So he's
he's
not in
done.
Atlanta anymore?
Well, I think he went back to Ohio. I think he was in Atlanta, then he went back to Ohio. Anyway, it seems that he might be done filming White Noise, I think is the impression that everybody's getting. Which means, of course, November 4th is the premiere of House of Gucci. Not wide release, because of course that will be on the 24th. But the premiere of House of Gucci in LA will be on November 4th, and that's when the press junket is expected to happen. So I think people are hoping that maybe White Noise filming is over, and that Adam will now participate in uh
House of Gucci.
the Father, Son, and House of Gucci uh press. That's what I think people are hoping for. So there's that. The He has not participated in the Last Duel press whatsoever. Having seen the film, I understand why. Like, I completely
Yeah.
understand. Um, I don't imagine that you would want to have a bunch of questions about that character at you. Like, especially being that Adam has made it clear that he doesn't like to reflect on his work, and that I'm sure he would be appalled that that you and I are even doing this show, or think it was pointless at best. Um, he doesn't seem to like to reflect on the work that he's done. He wants to do it and then leave it on the stage, leave it on the screen, and then walk away. So I can imagine that, especially this type of work, whatever you had to do to get yourself into that headspace, I feel like he'd want to do that work, do his best, and then let it speak for itself, and then not talk about it. I feel like that makes total sense.
Yeah.
I don't
Oh
know.
man.
Last Duel is not, or at least as of this recording, not doing great box office wise. It had a $9 million opening.
Ooh.
Yeah. But it was also up against the new Venom movie, the new James Bond movie, and also Halloween Kills.
And who would want to see The Last Duel? I mean, honestly.
Well, I think that medieval people, well, I think that it's a great film to see on screen. It's epic. It's the battles. Like, I think all the stuff you'd want in a big theater, like epic, the sound design and the score and the big costumes and this set design and the extras and all the battles. I think that is something that you'd want to see on a big screen. But
Yeah.
perhaps there are people that are like, I don't know, drama and big period dramas are maybe not a big draw to the theater. There just
Yeah.
aren't that many
But
people going to
also,
the
like,
theater.
the subject matter, it's like,
Hmm.
it's about rape, and it's like, who wants to watch that? Like,
Well, that's the
I'm glad that
interesting
I
thing
saw
is,
it,
yeah,
but if you're like, how do I want to spend my time and money? I don't
yeah.
want to watch this philosophical kind of like drama about what is rape and what is not, and like,
But the
I don't
thing
know,
is, I
like,
don't think the movie is actually all about that. Like, I think it's marketed that way, but after having seen the movie, I was like, actually, that's only part of what the movie is about. And I'll get into that, I guess, when we get into the movie. And I'm not upset with them marketing it the way that they did. I feel like this was the only way to market it, because if you try to back burner the rape, then it seems like you're using it as a plot device.
mhm.
Um,
What is it about? I'm dying to
well,
know.
I mean, I think
What do
it
you think
is
it's
partially
about?
about that, but I think that comes down to this 3-act structure, and like how each of the acts is really, or if you want to give, I almost feel like there's 4 stories going on here. And I'll talk about that in a minute, but it's not that the rape isn't a big part of the movie. And again, I'm so sorry, listeners. I feel like we should have said this at the top, but we did say we were going to talk about The Last Duel, but obviously, uh I'm just going to throw out a warning here. We're talking about The Last Duel today, which means we will be talking about sexual assault and rape, as those are two things that are, that is the thing, that is a big part of the movie. And so we'll be talking about that today. We'll be talking about things that people might find triggering or traumatic. And if you are not wanting to subject yourself to that subject matter, then totally understand that. Come and join us back next time when we'll be talking about Brooklyn Nine-Nine and then another of one of Adam's films after that. So, listeners, please do take care of yourselves. We're just going to be rolling right into it, I think. But yeah, I'll reserve that for the discussion. But what I will say is that this film has an interesting marketing problem, which is that one of its big actions that triggers the last duel itself is the rape, but there's a lot of other stuff
Yeah,
going
there's
on
like
here.
male relationship
Mhm.
type things.
Yeah. But yeah, I think it's hard to get people out to see a movie about something that challenges their assumptions, which this movie does. And so that's tough. But also, I think it's just generally hard to get people out to see big dramas. And this is a big drama. It's a big medieval drama. And so people were probably like, should I go see the big medieval drama about that's going to challenge my assumptions about masculinity and women's place in society and what rape allegations? Do I want to see that, or do I want to see Daniel Craig as James Bond? You know what I mean? So there's that.
The answer is clear.
I mean, for us, it was clear. We went and saw The Last Duel.
It's an assignment.
But I
Yes.
do think there are a lot of Adam fans going out to see the movie, and
Oh yeah.
and I think that and the people that have seen it have had good things to say about it, and it
Mhm.
has been well reviewed. So it is a good
Mhm.
film, but maybe just not drawing the crowds. But maybe we don't need to assess every film by its value of how much money it makes.
Definitely not.
So I think that's all the Adam and Andy news I have for today. And it seems like we've already started talking about it. So do you want
We
to
have.
jo- just jog right in? Do you want to hop on the horse and just joust our way right into this? Joust our way right into this film.
Yep.
Let's start with, did you like this film, Sarah? I feel like let's start there. Or did you think this was a good film, I should say?
I thought this was a good film. I
Mhm.
thought it was well made. Oh. Well acted,
Mhm.
well executed. I
Mhm.
think that the writing was questionable at times.
Mhm.
I think that I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and say it just because it's like I don't know when the right time to say this is, but it felt kind of like
It was written by three different people.
written by three different people, but also written in a way that satiates an ally, like makes
Makes an ally
like
feel better.
feel good
I hadn't
versus
thought
like
about
a
that.
female being like, this is my story told by me. It felt
Mhm.
like it was like a story told by an ally to be like, look what a good ally I am.
That actually makes a lot of sense. And okay, I'm going to tell you this right off the top. I listened to an interview with Matt Damon, Nicole Holofcener. I listened to two of those, and then I listened to one with Matt, Ben, and Nicole Holofcener. This movie was written by three different people. And I think each one of them took an act. They each took a POV. In fact, when they presented this to Nicole, they said basically, and this was, here's what I'll say about this movie. I feel like this movie is a step in the right direction towards telling stories like this, but it's flawed. And if you want to ask me if I like this movie, I thought it was a great movie. I actually did think it was a great movie. And I think we are in an in-between transitional period where we can begin looking at reframing our thinking about these kind of topics, like sexual assault and women and how they have been treated as property throughout time, and in many cases continue to be treated as property. Um, but you're right. There's something like amiss here. Now, when they presented this to Nicole Hall of Center, they said, we want to write this story. By the way, the story of the duel is highly documented. It's documented very extensively, but only on the point of view of the men. The men
Mhm.
wrote down everything. There's no testimony for Marguerite. There is no information about how she felt. There's not even anything to indicate that she actually accused Jacques Legris of anything. And that perhaps it was Jean who accused him as part of like his sort of campaign to get his land back and all this other stuff. So we don't know what actually happened to her because no one asked her. So knowing that, Matt and Ben were like, we want to write this movie. We want to write this movie, and we want to include Marguerite's point of view, but we don't have any information about her, so it has to be completely invented, and we don't feel like we have the right point of view to do that. So we would like you to write Marguerite's story. And so the pitch to her was write Marguerite's part of the film, and it should take you a short time, and boom, you're done. Obviously, she ended up being much more involved, thank God. So it was written by 3 different people. I'm going to guess, this is my assumption, I'm going to guess that Matt Damon spent most of his time on the first POV,
Arouge.
Jean LaRouge. I think Ben spent most of his time on Jacques Legris, who initially that was who Ben was going to play until they decided to give that part to hire Adam Driver to play it instead.
Because of scheduling
Was
conflicts,
it?
actually, yes.
Because
That's
Adam
why.
Driver is smoking hot.
No,
and
it
been
was
in
on
that role from the beginning.
IMDb trivia. It was Ben Affleck was slated to star in a different film and couldn't film when that character had to film.
And I love Ben Affleck, but I think casting Adam Driver was like wasn't the things that made this movie much better. Casting Adam Driver and hiring Nicole Hall of Center to write were 2 things that really made this movie something that rose above what it could have been, I think.
I will say the casting of Matt and Adam didn't make sense to me because Matt is in his 50s, Adam's in his 30s, and they talked about them being old friends and old
yes, the real Jacques Legris
comrades.
was in his 50s when they dueled. Yeah.
And I'm just
That was
like,
I can see where that's.
I don't see it. Like, I just was like, I don't know. Like, yeah.
Well, and then we'll talk about Jodie Comer in a minute. But by the way, Jodie Comer absolutely slayed this movie. Like, fucking slayed it. Nicole Hall of Center did absolutely write Marguerite's story, and in fact had to write most of it from scratch because, like I said, there was no information about Marguerite's experience whatsoever regarding this. All the allegations all came from Jean. I feel like for me, the movie really took off when Marguerite's story came. For me, that's when the movie took off.
Yeah.
And
I was waiting for it. I was like, when is the third act going to come in?
I kind of wish the whole movie had been written by Nicole Hall of Center because that's when the movie really had real life for me. And it wasn't just because it focused on Marguerite. Like all the character relationships were deeper. There was just a lot. I just felt like the movie really started to click for me. Now, I also really like Jacques Legris's part as well. But I do agree that it feels almost like there's 4 different movies here. There's the movie about Jean. There's this movie about Jacques Legris, who's like this, guy who grew up with no family name, had to work his way up from nothing, became this sort of like, like not. I'm trying to think of what the right word is. He's not a scamp. He's a cad. I don't know. A cad? Is that the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Who's like got a lot of sexual prowess and women think he's attractive, but he's obviously got some big problems with what he thinks sex is. All the men in this movie do.
Yeah.
And then you have the movie about Marguerite, and then the duel is almost its own movie. So like that's something that's a little strange for me, is how at times I don't know like how all these parts are cohesive, other than that they're all part of the same story.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
I felt like
you go ahead.
Yeah, I felt like the one, I guess, by Matt Damon, the Jean
And we're
story.
assuming. I think eventually they all worked on it together, but it
Yeah.
feels to me like Matt probably wrote that one
It felt
most.
when you saw Matt's character throughout the other two, like the
Mhm.
Jacques and the Marguerite,
Mhm.
his character was much more angry and
But I did
like,
like that. I liked
yeah,
the changes in performance. I love a Rashomon story where we're seeing
yeah,
different points of view and people remembering things differently. That I did like. I thought that worked very
yeah,
well.
yeah. I liked how he seemed much more like he seemed like the reasonable person in his
Right.
reality.
But
Um,
honestly, Sarah, he is a Karen. He's a Karen with a Karen haircut. Like,
yes,
that is the first thing I thought. Even in his part, I was like, ugh, he's awful. Like, I can't
yeah,
stand him. He's such a
yeah,
drag. He's so insecure. He's always asking to speak to the manager.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, he is just like, I think Pierre calls him just no fun. And he isn't any fun. I think you can see on the battlefield where, like, maybe the battlefield is where he does best, but he's not good with money. He's not romantic. He's not a good friend. He's not interesting. And his haircut is insane.
insane
Um jo-
mullet.
Gene was the most boring part of the movie for me. Like that first 20 minutes, Sarah, I got to tell you, I was sitting there thinking to myself, "Oh fuck." Like,
Yeah,
is the whole movie going to be like this? Because I got to say, I'm a little bored. The first 20
yeah,
minutes were a slog for me. I'm not going to lie. And it's not because there wasn't enough Adam Driver. It just was like, it was a bit of a slog.
yeah,
Um, but I understand how they had to give us that to set up everything
yeah,
else. It was just
yeah.
like, could we have made that part shorter? Maybe a little shorter. I don't know.
Maybe
How
they
did you
didn't
feel
think it
about?
was as bad as you thought it was.
It wasn't bad. I was just a little bored. I was a little bored. I didn't care for Gene. I wasn't rooting for him.
Yeah,
Marguerite
I
seemed like this like one-dimensional,
one-dimensional. Yes.
do good wife. And I knew they were going to set us up to reverse
Yeah,
that later, but
yeah,
it was just like it was a slog.
yeah,
It was a lot of
yeah.
exposition. It was like the exposition portion for me.
Exposition,
Yeah.
yes. No, I was a little bored too. I think that yeah, his part he was more reasonable than
Mhm.
his character was in the other two parts, but
Mhm.
still was a little like this is like he's that guy. Like he's the guy that like everyone like is like, ugh,
Ugh.
that guy.
Yeah,
You
that
know?
guy. Uh
Like when this was not in this was not
mhm.
in
Mhm.
Jean's
Mhm.
segment, but in
Mhm.
a different one where he was being awarded something
Mhm.
and he like kneeled and people were like talking, laughing. He was like, quiet or like
I
shut up
know.
or like
He's just
silence
that
or like
guy. Yeah, he's that guy. You don't like him. You don't want to be around him. He's a drag. He's like he's a hall monitor. He's a narc. He's a Karen. We don't like him.
yes.
We
Yeah,
don't
no.
like him.
No.
And every man in this movie thinks he's the hero of his story.
Mhm.
And Jean thinks he's the hero. He even thinks that he's a good husband, and he is not.
Mm-mm.
He's not a good husband. Remembers things completely differently than what Marguerite remembers.
Mhm.
Um, anything else to say about Gene or his part? There's a lot I want to get into about women and how they're viewed in this society, but I feel like with Gene, it's really just setting up that Gene thinks he's entitled to certain things. All the men in this fucking movie think they're entitled to certain things. He thinks he's entitled to certain things, stature, land. He keeps Marguerite locked away in the house, it seems like.
Yeah.
But he thinks that he's a good, reasonable, morally right, maybe even romantic husband.
Mhm.
And boy, is he delusional.
Delusional.
He's kind of an idiot as well.
He's a little thick.
Yeah. That mullet, not a lot of information gets through that mullet.
Yeah, no.
Shall we talk about Jacques Legris?
Yes.
Um,
Cad.
he's a cad. Yeah. So Jacques Legris is when I started to get interested in the film. And not just because of Adam. I just feel like the story really started to take off. It didn't really take off for me until Marguerite's story, but it
Mhm.
did start to take off for me during Jacques Legris. And obviously, I'm not sad to see a POV of the character that Adam Driver's playing. I'm never going to be sad about that. So, first of all, I want to say before we get into Jacques Legris and his whole, obviously Jacques Legris is a trash person. We're he is obviously, but I will say this about Adam. I was sitting there thinking like, wow, like this is an actor who came into this business thinking that he is not handsome. I mean, you've heard the story about him being cast on Girls, haven't you?
Yeah.
About the
He was like,
carpenter. You
"Well,"
didn't you
he's like,
weren't you the
"Hey,
one
hey,
who brought
hey."
in that trivia?
Mhm. Hey, it's like he saw that it was like the casting description, like it was like handsome carpenter. He's like, "Oh well, I'm not gonna get that. I'm not handsome."
So we have an
Yeah.
actor here came into this business thinking he's not handsome, right? And here he is being cast in this role where he is the hot one at court that all the
Mhm.
ladies are talking about, and he's like having orgies and is flirting with women, and like the dangerous thing about him is he's mysterious and hot, and
Mm.
so like Jacques Legris aside, I was just like, wow, like good for you. Good for you, Adam, that like these fucking directors are recognizing his fucking hotness. Like this guy, Ridley Scott and Leos from, Annette, which I know that Sarah you didn't like Henry McHenry, but the filmmaker obviously could see Adam's hotness and was exploiting that on screen in every way possible. And so I just had to take a moment to be like, wow, like what, I don't know if he's internalized this way that the world sees him, but it made me excited for that to be like a development in his career that he's now we all knew he was the hot one.
He probably thinks it's silly.
Maybe so.
He's like, "The world's gone mad."
I mean, he is absolutely like, again, Jacques Legris. All the men in this movie are so shitty. Like, I'm just gonna say that. It's like I feel like Sarah. I'm not want to jump to the duel, but I remember when we were watching the duel in the theater, I leaned over to you and I was like, I don't know who I hate more. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
who I want to die more right now. And you were like, I agree. Like, all the men in this movie are so fucking shitty.
Yeah.
Um, but Adam in this movie is like so hot. Like, just like the medieval garb, the fucking chainmail, like the fucking hair, and like this there's so much smirking and laughing, and like I feel like I hardly ever see him laugh this much in a movie, you know? Um and again, I'm talking about the actor Adam Driver right now. I'm not talking about the character who obviously was using his looks and his charm uh as a way to get ahead. I mean, that's what he's doing in this world. Um but I also think, as usual, Adam brought this like vulnerability to somebody that we very much should not like, you know? And I don't think the movie attempted to make us forgive or um give him a pass on his behavior and what he did to Marguerite. And that's something I want to commend the movie for.
Mhm.
At no time did I feel like the movie was asking us to feel like, because Jacques Legris had his feelings about what was going on, that we should in any way be okay with what he did or look at his side of things. Like, I don't feel like the movie ever asked us to do that. But Adam did play him with honesty and say, this guy doesn't fucking know what a shitty person he is. Like, he thinks this is the way sex is.
Yeah, is now a time to use this quote? This quote sticks with me,
Mm-hmm.
or stuck with me. She made the customary protestations, but she is a lady.
Yes.
Like it wasn't rape, but she did make the customary
Yeah,
protestation,
she had
you
to
know?
as being a part of being a lady. Like, he can't see. It's like they did a really good job. Again, I think this movie is less about let's forgive these guys because it's not about let's forgive these guys because they it was part of a certain time. I hate that excuse. This is a
Mhm,
certain time we're talking about. The movie did a good job of saying this is the time they were in, and look at all the ways that these men didn't look at this woman as a human being. Like, in
mhm.
no part of the society are the women looked at that way.
And
And
the, other women, there
mhm,
were two other women who
yes.
also did not side with her
Mhm.
because of,
Well, I
the
want to
way
get to
society
that.
was.
I want to
Yeah.
get to that, but what I'm slowly getting to is the orgy scene, if you want to
Mhm.
call it that, where he's with the with Count Pierre and or Duke. Is he a count? He's a Duke. I don't remember.
Count, I
They
think,
gave
I
me
don't
so
know.
many dates, Sarah. I was like, I can't remember all these dates. I don't know when this thing is taking place. Are we in France? I guess we're in France. I can't tell by the
1387,
accents.
97,
We
something
could
like that?
we could be in Nebraska for all I know by the accents. Anyway, I believe it was France, and it was in the
France.
1300s,
Yes.
late 1300s. Anyway, he's with Pierre, and they're having this like sort of orgy, and he's chasing a woman around the table, and it's exactly what happens with Marguerite. So it's like
Mhm.
the movie is showing you, look, this is we're all there, everyone's participating in this, and this woman he's chasing right now may not like it.
Yeah.
But to him, he thinks this is the game. This is the game.
Yeah.
They want to be chased, and I can take whatever I want, and
Mhm.
it's not bad for them. I'm not doing something bad to them. Like, at
Yeah.
no time do I think he actually believes he did something wrong.
Mhm.
And there is no work on the part of the society to teach him that he did anything wrong,
Mhm.
because they
Yeah.
none of them
No,
see
that
these
scene
women as humans.
between Adam and Ben,
Mhm.
where basically Ben's like, "Just tell me, like, if you did this," and he's like, "No, I didn't. It wasn't rape. It was just like, I mean, she protested, but like, that's what they all do. Like, I didn't rape her." And he's like, "Okay, well, just
Deny.
just don't
Mhm.
say you even were there.
Yeah.
Like, you weren't there. It didn't happen.
Mhm.
Protestations or not,
Mhm.
you know."
And immediately after he goes to Marguerite and rapes her, he goes to confession, but not to confess that he raped someone, but to confess adultery,
Adultery.
because that's what he thinks, coveting another man's wife, another man's
Mhm.
property, which
Also,
there's no mistake to me that they're fighting over land, and that land came with the woman.
uh-huh,
The woman comes with the land.
uh-huh,
And they're fighting over the land, and they're fighting over the woman, and to them all of it is their property. All of it is their
uh-huh.
belonging.
And there was that line that, um, "A rape is not a crime against a person. Rape is a crime or like not a crime against woman. Rape is a crime against her husband. She is
Mhm.
property."
Mhm.
Who said that? I forget
It
what it
was
was.
during the trial. It was during the
Yeah.
the the trial, yeah. Um, yeah, none of these men know how to have normal sex, to be honest. Like, I came into this movie knowing that I was going to have to watch this rape scene, which we'll talk
Mhm.
about the filming of it, I think, in a minute, because I
Twice.
think twice. Twice.
Mhm.
I watched it
And
thrice.
other sex scenes between
Uh,
Matt and Jody.
yes. But what I didn't really expect was that all of the sex scenes would be unpleasant, because
Yeah.
all of the scenes between Jean and Marguerite are also very upsetting, and
Mhm.
upsetting in a way that makes me think about the insidiousness of how women are often expected to accept or acquiesce to things their partner wants to do,
Mhm.
because because otherwise we're not pleasing our husbands or our partners or whatever. And how many times in your life, and not you, but I'm saying the royal you, our lives as women, that we have maybe done something we didn't want to, or we thought we should say no but we don't, or we think to ourselves, why am I not enjoying this thing, because if I like this person I should be enjoying it. All of those things that we're taught, that like we are supposed to uh be pliant and welcoming, and and that if we're not enjoying it, it's our fault, you
Mhm.
know? And I think the movie does a good job of showing that, and how in this society in particular, they're the men are not like, I think Gene genuinely thinks he's doing a good job as a husband. You can see in his
Mhm.
point of view he thinks he is, but on her end, he's not a sensitive lover. He doesn't care about what she wants.
And he's like, "That was great. Was that great for you?" Like,
And she can't
you
say
know?
no. She doesn't know
Yeah.
how to communicate with him and say, "No, I didn't like that." And he's not really
Yeah.
checking in with her, and he's not really sensitive to what's very clearly for her not a good experience. Like, if he would
Yeah.
just pay attention, he would
Yeah.
see that what she's saying and what she's feeling are not the same thing.
Yeah. And so, like, will the poor woman ever have good sex? Like,
God, I don't know. I just was like, "God, I just hope I want her to, like, you know, I hope one day she accidentally is washing herself in that copper tub and realizes that she can do better for herself than any of these yahoos can."
did good sex even exist back then, Nicole?
For some, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know anybody then. I assumed that maybe some people were having good sex. Maybe
Yeah.
some people were.
Hopefully.
I mean, but you
Hopefully.
can how can the sex be good if if no one is, if no one cares about your feelings or your experience, or
Yeah.
isn't paying attention to you, or to doesn't know how to please you, or doesn't know how to look for things as signs, like, if
Like, the
women are not allowed,
face?
yeah, look at my face, do I look like I'm having a good time, motherfucker? Does this look like a good time?
Yeah.
um
Seriously,
It
seriously.
seems like women in this world, and again, I'm talking about the film. Now, I
Yes.
did read a bit about the society at this time, and there were some discrepancies with how it was portrayed in the film, and we can talk about that. But as far as the world of the film goes, women are baby machines. They are they are property. They are like
Mhm.
livestock, basically.
Mhm.
And there was a very pitch over the head kind of moment where Gene gets really upset because his prize mare is being mounted by a big black stallion, which I feel like could not have been more obvious.
Yeah.
And he's upset and he's hitting the horse, and the horse gets pregnant, and I mean, it's like foreshadowing of the least subtle degree.
Yeah.
But it was like to him, Marguerite is like that horse.
Yeah.
And to all the men in this film. And all of the
Yeah.
other wives, like the way they kept cutting to that very young queen.
You
Very,
mean,
very
oh,
young.
the queen and the king too, the very young king as well.
Yeah. And that queen looked to be, I don't know, 14.
Yeah.
And how she clearly was, as they were in the trial talking about the rape, how the queen, it almost seemed like she was having a moment of realization where she was like,
Mhm.
oh, I've been raped as well. And I
Mhm.
never looked at it that way, and I can't
Yeah.
say anything about it.
Yeah. And
Or
she's pregnant as well.
mhm, mhm. So, none of the
I
men.
feel like
Yeah, you go
that
ahead.
was probably the way things were. Like, I think that even into the 20th century,
In the
w
1950s, all of
rape was probably just, like, commonplace.
well, let me say a little bit about what I read about what society was actually like. So one of the discrepancies in the film, that according to this person that I read, who had analyzed kind of, who knew a bit more about the text and what had actually happened, and uh in medieval society, the fear was not that women wouldn't enjoy themselves, but that they would enjoy themselves too much. Like, women were considered to be basically illicit pleasure machines that would love sex too much and would cheat on their husbands if they were allowed, and would enjoy rape too much because they can't help themselves. I know, it's horrifying. And so that was a bigger fear than your wife not enjoying herself, even if she's in reality not enjoying herself. And also rape, when convicted of it, was a pretty big deal. Like, men were exiled or killed if they had been found to be a rapist. But again, it was really, I think, looked at at more of a crime against the husband than against the wife. So that, I think, was accurate.
Yeah. I forgot what I was about to say. Yeah.
I did want to circle back to what you said about the women in the story, because there are women in the story. I found Marguerite's part of the film to be the most interesting. Marguerite is obviously the hero of the story. Another thing that I would like to say that I found positive about the film was that when we get to Marguerite's story, they made it very clear that her story, at least on their end for this film, the sake of the film, Marguerite's story is the truth. There was no I don't think there was any time in this movie where the movie was saying, we're going to give you 3 points of view and you decide what the truth is. They were like, Marguerite is telling the truth, and we're not going to
Which is
question that.
crazy because we don't know her story. And to say that her story, like the made up story that what's her name? Nicole
Holofcener.
Holofcener wrote is the truth. It's like that to me felt like we're allies. Like,
Okay, I get that.
this is a female story, and females are always right because they're female.
Well, let me put it this way. I don't think the movie is about whether or not this is true, and I don't think the movie is trying to be historically accurate as a record of history. So let me just put it that way. This is a epic medieval film that is based on a true event. It is not a biography. It is not a historical account. And I think that if you're going to make a movie about this, you better damn well believe the woman. So to me, I made this very clear on the last episode that we talked about this. What I didn't want was to go into this movie and see this movie using a woman's sexual assault as a prop, as a way to explore the relationship between two men. And I think that a lot of moments it looked like it was teetering that way. But I think they've managed to remain focused on the ways that the society fails everyone in this movie. Like the way that the patriarchal structure between men and women fails everyone. It fails Marguerite, it fails Jean, it fails Jacques Legree. It fails everyone in this movie. But especially the women. And to me, if you're going to make this fucking movie, it better damn well be about the woman is telling the truth, because the idea that women lie about rape is absurd. And when women come out to say that they've been raped, they have way more to lose than they do by staying silent.
And they did make that point in this film, like
Mm-hmm.
a few times, like
Yeah.
the penalty of lying about this is death, like horrible death.
Right. Which again was in the movie. That was not the case in the real story. Marguerite was not, they were not going to burn her at the stake. If Jean because Jean made the accusation, not Marguerite. See, in the movie, Marguerite made the accusation. In the real life story, Jean made the accusation, so he was the one who was going to suffer consequences. Margaret, that I feel like even just saying that is a testament to how little this society cared about women and what happened to them. Is that if in the real story, and we don't know because we never got to hear from Marguerite in the real story, if that was true, if Jacques Legree did do that to her, no one even gave a shit about what she said. So she wasn't even the one making the accusation. It was Jean who was trying to use the accusation to get things that he wanted. Using her assault, assuming that that's what took place, using her assault as a way to get property back from Jacques Legree, to get revenge on him for any wrongs that he felt like had been done to him. And this is the real life story. As far as the film goes, I personally feel like had they not made it very clear that if they're going to tell the story, then we're siding with Marguerite in this situation, then what's the fucking point of the movie to me at that point if we're not going to do that? So I don't know if how you feel about that, but I think it's more important to, in this world that we live in, to say women get raped and we should believe them, than to say, here's 3 stories, you decide what you think is
Yeah,
more
no, I
important.
think it was the right call. I just think that, yeah, I don't know.
I would not have wanted to see a movie about 2 guys talking about somebody else's traumatic experience. I would
Yeah.
not have wanted that
Well,
at all.
I do think that it definitely it was not all about her. What it seemed to me was that um these two men's relationship, the relationship between the two of them caused this problem with her. Like it wasn't that she caused the conflict between them, it
Mhm.
was that their own shit allowed that to all this stuff to happen to her.
I do think that there's a bit of that there, but I definitely think that they were trying to avoid making those guys' personal conflict be a reason for what happened to Marguerite. I don't think Jacques I'll just say this. I don't think Jacques Legree in the movie, we're talking about the movie character now. I don't think Jacques Legree raped Marguerite because he was trying to get back at Jean. I think he raped her because he genuinely thought he was in love with her and he doesn't understand how sex with a woman works.
Mhm.
I
Oh,
think
also,
that's what I think that's how I think the movie portrayed it.
yeah, and also like at the end of the rape, like how he like at the door was like, "We couldn't help ourselves. Like, don't feel bad, love. We couldn't help ourselves." And I was
It was like,
like,
"Bleh."
"We couldn't help ourselves?
Yeah.
Like what?"
While we're talking about it, and I'm gonna get, I feel like I really need to talk about how this was shot because that was the other thing I'm always worried about is when a rape is being shown on screen, how are we portraying it? What are we showing? Is this something that's meant to be like I are we focusing on the mechanics of it? Are we trying in any way to make it titillating? Any of those things, right?
Definitely not.
I don't think that's what they did. And in fact, what I appreciate about the shooting of this and what I was very concerned about was that in each version, they chose to focus on the person and the
The
emotional
expression.
experience.
Yes.
The emotional experience, we stayed on their face. That doesn't mean we didn't have a couple of shots where we were kind of showing what was going on, but for the most part, the focus was on what's happening with this character emotionally. And for Jacques Legree, it was him sort of like completely out of control, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Completely out
Yeah.
of control, completely misreading the situation.
Mhm.
Uh Taking what he wanted without actually having any kind of permission for that. And
Mhm.
even in his point of view, where he's seeing things his own way, it still was very like, ooh, she is not enjoying this.
Yeah. However, in her version, it was way worse.
Way
Like
worse.
way
Way
worse.
worse. But yeah, they stayed focused on her and what was going with her with her. And so and somebody brought this up on Twitter when we were talking about it. And that was that well, it's not graphic. I've seen worse on TV shows. We've
Mhm.
seen worse violence in TV shows, and I think that's true. But to me, it was more effective. It was more devastating to focus on what's happening emotionally and how
Mhm.
this woman is being completely violated and traumatized and feeling helpless, and this is being done to her against her will. I feel
Mhm.
like that for me was very difficult to watch, and I imagine for an actor incredibly difficult to film for both of them.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
again, I can see why, you know, if I were Adam Driver, I'd be like, I did this. I did my performance. I did what I had to do for the story. I don't want to reflect on this
Yeah.
in an interview
Yeah.
because that's what they're going to ask about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and Jodie Comer, you know, has the strength that whatever she had to do to shore up her strength to go out there and be the face of the movie and say,
Mhm.
like, I'm an actor, I played this role, and here's what was going on with my character and why I think this story is important.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, no,
so
it was really like the difference between how Marguerite was portrayed in Jacques' version of reality and Marguerite's version of reality was devastating. Like
yeah,
in Jacques' version, it was like the kind of
you could
like
barely
especially
hear
like
her saying
she
no.
didn't say much. She didn't. It was just like a kind of upset, kind of
Hmm.
concerned. She gently, like,
Weekly try to
weakly
push him
ran
away. Yeah.
away, kind of, It
It
was
was very
definitely
much
like, no.
like that orgy scene where he's chasing
Yeah.
the woman around, and it made me reflect back on that and think,
Yeah.
like, what was that woman going through? Was he also raping
Yeah.
that woman and thought he was having a good time with her? You know?
But in Marguerite's version, she screamed no. She wailed,
And
she ran,
punch
she clawed,
kicking, yeah.
she dropped, and she
She
cried,
cried, she
and it
said I think
was
she said,
just
"Please stop, why are you doing this?" Like, all kinds of
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, just breaking, and, anyone who has to go through that, like,
Mhm,
it's just awful.
mhm. Yeah, it was really intense. It was intense and difficult to watch, for sure. But again, I was concerned about how was this going to be shot,
It
and
was not
I
sensational.
feel like it was shot in a way that was correct for this narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we talk about the women,
Yeah,
the
let's.
mother-in-law and the
Let's
friend?
yes. So there's several women in the story. We don't really see them come as I mean, they are in the earlier scenes. There's not a lot
Mhm.
of I mean, there aren't a lot of women interacting with each other in this movie until we get to Marguerite's story. And then we have her
Yeah,
interacting with the mother-in-law, and we have her interacting with her friend, her bestie.
yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to circle back to what you wanted to say about that.
So, yeah, her best friend,
I didn't write down her name. Oh,
yeah, I forget her name, but, they're friends, and they talk about, this or that, and they, at some point, talk about how attractive Jacques Legree is.
yeah, and her friend is
Um,
kind of pushing it a little bit, where she's like,
yeah,
"Ooh, he's looking at you," and "Ooh, isn't he handsome?" Like, it seems like she's the one who's like really like, "Wow,
yeah,
he's handsome." And Marguerite's like, "Yeah, I get, yeah, he is handsome," but she's not
yeah,
like drooling over him, you know.
yeah, and then um, after the rape and after Marguerite comes forward with the fact that she was raped, her friend is like, "You thought he was handsome. How essentially, how can you be raped by someone you find attractive?
Mhm.
Like, if you
Mhm.
find someone attractive, they cannot rape you."
Yeah, there's a lot of that kind of misconception here. Like, obviously, she wanted it if she said he was attractive. You
Hmm.
know, even in the God, that courtroom scene was excruciating, where they're
Ugh.
talking about like she's pregnant. Well, women can't get pregnant if it's a rape. So, which is
Yeah.
something we've literally like that whole scene. Again, this is why whether or not this is historically accurate, which according to what I read, that sort of questioning would not be they wouldn't ask that during a trial at this time period. But the point isn't to be historically accurate. I think the point is to reflect on how these guys look like fucking dinosaurs, saying you that rape cannot, lead to conceiving a child, which is literally what men in the GOP are saying still.
Hmm.
These committees of all men who are meeting to talk about women's reproductive health. It
Hmm.
reminded me of like just a bunch of men in a on a panel talking about women's reproductive health
I
like
mean,
they
did
know what
men
the
back
fuck
then
they're talking
think
about.
that though? Like, you said they wouldn't have said that in a courtroom. Would they have said it and anywhere back then?
That's a good question. I don't know that the
Were
article
they just
really got
putting
into
words in their
detail on it.
mouths?
They did not say that at the trial. I'll say that. That was not something they talked about at the trial.
I will say also during that scene, or maybe a scene around it, they talked about how basically the woman also has to have a little death at
Mhm.
the end of
Mhm.
sex in order for there to be a pregnancy.
Mhm.
So basically, they were like, you couldn't get pregnant in 5 years with Jean, and all of a sudden you were raped, and you
Mhm.
could get pregnant. Like,
Mhm.
so that means you didn't enjoy sex with Jean, but
Well,
you
they were
did
asking her, yeah,
enjoy,
like,
yeah,
did you have sex with did you enjoy sex with your husband? Oh, it was all very excruciating. But I feel
yeah,
like this is the kind of questioning, whether or not it's historically accurate for this time period. This is the kind of question that women are subjected to today under these
mhm.
circumstances. And so to see it in a historical context with these old fucking medieval guys, it was like, wow, like, yeah, that is some absurd, backwards ass shit. And yet it's still coming out of the mouth of committees, judges, lawyers, all kinds of people who are witnesses, people who are, participating in these rape trials, as though a
Yeah.
woman would come forward with something this traumatic that is going to put her through the ringer in every sense of the word. Women have literally nothing to gain from accusing someone of rape. Nothing. If anything, they're the strength that women show coming forward about that to be a part of making this, like, erasing this insidious you know act from our culture by saying this is wrong and it happens, and these men need to be held accountable. Like, that bravery is incredible. And
Mhm.
I think
Yeah.
that's what they were trying to show in the trial, not the historic accuracy,
Yeah.
because Marguerite never gave a testimony. She never had a
Yeah.
voice. And so Nicole
Yeah.
Holliff Center gave her a voice, and she gave her today's voice and said,
Mhm.
this woman that we're looking at now, you can see her sitting in this chair having to undergo these questions, but women continue to go through this every single fucking day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I would have liked to see a period piece that showed how bad it actually was, as opposed to let's give her a voice, but we're not gonna treat her with respect. Like, it's like, let's show how little she actually mattered and how she was not even allowed to speak and how she was not even allowed to have any kind of opinion. I know that wouldn't have made a good film, but
Yeah, I see where you're going with this, but I feel like that's not something I want to see. I need to see, because then again, we're just getting the men's point of view on something that happened to a woman, and I just don't want it. I don't
yeah.
want it. I think that, given that Marguerite didn't have a voice, I'm glad that somebody at least tried to attempt to give her a voice. We do know that women were viewed as property, like, that's definitely accurate. And I think that, now I do want to circle back to the mother-in-law, because
Mhm.
we get a lot of different versions of, I think it's also we're also just showing the scope of the rot in the society when it comes to the way women are treated, because it's like, not only will your best friend rat you out because you said some boy was cute, and then later that boy did unspeakable things to you that you didn't want,
Mhm.
but also her mother-in-law, who says it doesn't matter what happened to you. You think you're the only one who's ever been raped? I've been raped. I didn't
Yeah.
say anything,
Yeah.
because
It's like
we've all been raped. Join the club, but we don't say anything
Yeah.
about it. We just let it happen because this is the way life is.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
some fucking sad, upsetting shit right there.
I knew that that's the way that scene was gonna go, though.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and also I knew that's the way things were. I mean, like, probably, like, every woman dealt with it. I mean, like, even today,
Today, most
every friend I have has had some kind of experience where it's
Mhm.
like, I didn't really want that, or, like, I
Mhm.
don't really feel like I had
Mhm.
much say in the matter, or I don't really feel like I did what I thought I wanted to do, or, like, everyone
I think,
woman.
yeah, I think every woman I know has either experienced now there's different levels of it, of course. Like, I don't want to, I mean, there's like what Marguerite went through is like, wow. Oof. But I do think every woman I know has, at worst, been through something like that and survived that, or been touched in a way they didn't want to be touched. You get groped at a club, you're with a person, and you don't want something, but they do it anyway. You get coerced into something you don't want to do. Like, I think every woman has experienced some level of violation. And so, but I do think that also the mother-in-law's response does remind me, I think, of, there are still women in our society who buy into the patriarchy and are like, if that happens to you, it's your fault. It's
Mhm.
your fault. And now and why even say anything about it? Or, yeah, it happened to me, but I like, the best thing you can do is just keep your mouth shut and move on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
and
think that still
honestly,
happens.
Honestly, like there was a scene in the movie where I had that thought of like where she like kept pushing it and pushing it, and I was like, girl, like they're like it sucks, but like you could die. Like and the very next scene was when she learned like you could die. And then she said, if I had known that I could die, I would have dropped it because what is it?
Well,
A child needs his mother more than a woman needs to be right.
Yeah. And I think that that was their attempt at circling back to the history, in that for Gene, it's not like in Gene's version of the story, he thinks that he's doing something good by his wife. But what really is going on is that Gene is trying to do, Gene is worried about himself and his
Mhm.
standing and how this is going to look for him in the
Mhm.
eyes of the public, and how his property has been
Mhm.
taken from him yet again. I mean, the
Mhm.
first thing he says after he almost chokes her to death.
This is in her
Right.
version, not his version.
Right. But which we can, which we've been told is the truth.
Yes.
She says what happened. He chokes her,
Mhm.
which when that happened, I was like, of course he did. Of course he
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
He chokes her, and then he says, "Why does he? What? Something like, will he? Is there nothing he won't do to wrong me, or all the ways that
Me.
he's wronged me? And
Yeah.
it's about him and what Jacques
Yeah.
Legree's done to him, and not what has been done to his wife at all."
And then he insists that she have sex with him, and he's like, Jacques Leroy will not be the last
Oh,
man to know you.
that was,
Yeah.
oh,
She's like,
I know, I know. I that oof,
it's like,
that was that was
that's like, let me rape you too.
I
Like,
know. That was that was fucked up. Um I don't want to deviate too much, but I do want to talk about the wigs and the accents for a moment. I feel like
okay.
we need to address
Yes. We need to
this.
address it.
Well, anything you want to anything you want to say about the wigs and the accents?
So when we saw the preview for this, I was really appalled that they put Matt Damon in a mullet and really appalled at the blonde hair they put on Ben Affleck.
I mean, he looks like somebody you would see at a truck stop in Gainesville, Georgia.
Yeah.
You know,
Just
or
I
Florida.
just
Even he looks like, it looks like if you see a report in the news and it says Florida man does XYZ, then you would see like Matt Damon's picture next to it. That's what it looks like.
I guess I don't understand why they put Matt and Ben in blonde hair and put Adam in black hair.
By the way, somebody on
Like
Twitter did Photoshop some very bad blonde hair on top of Jacques Legree's head. It was beautiful.
well, what I don't, I'm like, why does he get to have that nice hair and the other two have to have
Well,
like
I sent you the link. Did you read the
blonde?
link about the hair?
I did, yes.
So, according to the article that I read, the haircuts were chosen for a specific reason. So,
Mhm.
the wigs are horrendous, first of all.
Yes.
And as a casual viewer, I'm not sure if I understood all the subtext that was going on with that hair. So, I guess the filmmakers can take that as the it will, because all I could see was Limp Bizkit, Ben Affleck, and Florida Man Matt Damon. That's literally all I could
Uh-huh.
see.
Yeah.
So according to the article that I read, the mullet that Jean would have worn was historically accurate and meant to signify that he was kind of rough around the edges and very out of touch with the fashion of the day. That was what that was meant to signify. That
So
he's out
mullets
of
have always
touch.
been out of touch.
Yeah, so mullet has always meant hick, even in medieval France. Um Jacques Legree's hair was meant to signify that he was going against social norms, that he
Mhm.
was using his attractiveness to lure
That
women
he
into
was a
bed,
sexual being.
that he was a sexual being, that he was perhaps a social climber, and those are all
Mhm.
things that are true about that character.
Mhm.
Also, you could not put, well, I guess we'll have to circle back to this when we get to Jack Gladney when we talk about white noise one day, but I feel like it would be a crime to have put Adam Driver in one of those goddamn mullet wigs. I would have been a crime against nature. And then as far as Ben Affleck's hair, I
The short
guess
hair.
the short hair was
Didn't they
like,
say something about the short hair?
yeah,
Like
it was
how
meant to.
nobility sometimes
Mhm.
had different hair than the peasants just to show like I'm better than you or something?
I think it was meant to show that he was nobility.
Nobility, yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of the idea there. Now, why it had to be bleach blonde, I don't know, because he was a cousin of the king, and the king did not have bleach blonde hair. So I'm not really sure.
Did Ben
Maybe
Affleck
I
Ben
don't
was
know.
like, "I wanna be blonde. Just make me
Just make me
blonde
blonde. He's like, in the 90s,
for
I really
once."
wanted this hair, and my agent wouldn't let me. And now I'm a grown up and I can do what I want to do.
Mhm.
You
Mhm. Probably.
know. And the accent, Sarah. I feel like first of all, Matt Damon did not try to do an accent whatsoever. Like Matt Damon was like, I am a Boston man in France. Like like
Oh,
here I
wait, did
am.
he not even do an
No.
English accent? I forget what his voice was
Also,
like.
Jodie Comer and Adam Driver were not doing English accents. They were doing like medieval Renaissance I feel like they were doing Renaissance fair accents. Was it just me? They were like
Yeah.
speaking very properly,
Yeah.
but not actually doing something British. You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
I feel like they were Renfest accents.
Yes.
And
Yes.
then I don't quite understand what Ben Affleck was doing. Pierre had this sort of I cannot describe it. It was not an accent, but it wasn't not an accent. Then there was like some other count who sounded like he was trying to be a little French, but like it wasn't. And then it slipped and it went. And I was like, look, guys, I don't know. Like maybe we could have all agreed on one thing. Like, did we not line up at the beginning of the day and decide like
Where is your dialect
we're
coach?
all going to do this one thing? And if it's the Renfest accents, that's fine. But like also, I love that Adam's Renfest accent still had like a Midwestern twang to it.
It did. It did.
It's
He's
like
not good at accents.
he's
He's
not.
not.
We love him. We love him
We love
dearly.
him.
Accents are not his strong suit.
No, no,
He's
no.
an incredible
Um,
actor, but accents, I Sarah, we're gonna have to strap in for Gucci. Strap in for House of Gucci. It's gonna be accents a
but
go
what
go.
I don't understand is how they let actors get away with bad accents.
Maybe
Like,
this
how
is
did
the
they
best thing.
let
Look, I will give it to Adam and Jody. I thought of the accent parade, I thought they did the best.
Yeah. But also, like, there was no French like, this was
They
set in
didn't say
France,
French at
which
all.
it took me so long to figure out that everyone is French. This is in France. They didn't go to Paris for a day. Like, they live in France.
But also maybe they were worried about everybody going, oh, ha, ha, ha. Like they didn't want to like sort of Pepe
Yeah.
Le Pew accents. They were like, not expect they weren't trying to get Adam to go full Pepe Le Pew. So I can understand that. There's a lot of complicated shit on the table where that goes.
Yeah.
Um so I don't know how this is going to be received, but I'm just going to say it. I feel like in a different world, Jacques Legree and Marguerite could have had an actual connection or an actual I'm glad you're nodding because I totally saw
Because of
this.
their brains. Yeah,
Yeah,
their
because she
intelligence.
reads and he reads, and even like he's basically a glorified accountant, and she was handling the accounts. Like it seems like they were both smart people. Even in that one scene where they're flirting, whether or not it really went down that way or he just thought she was flirting with him, they had a rapport. And I think that in a different world, they could have had like maybe a relationship that was more intellectually and physically stimulating for her than what she had with Gene. But but not in this world.
Yeah.
Because you can't just bust into a woman's house and say, "I love you and I would take better care of you." And if she says no, then you fucking leave.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, woo her with secret letters or something, but you don't fucking take her by force. Anyway,
Mhm.
I just wanted to put that out there because I think again, this is another way that this whole system fails everyone.
Yeah, no, that's something I thought too. I was like, "Why?" I wish that they could work it out. Like, I wish that they could work out because but again, like in this society, because of the way that men and women relate to each other, it's like there was no way in which a man like that would have listened to her or would have like
No.
read her expression or really been like,
Mm-mm.
"Oh, okay. No
Oh,
means
let me
no."
back the fuck off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, bro, coming on a little strong. You guys literally talked over a buffet table for like
Yeah.
2 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer in you're not in love with someone until you like have like solid,
Like,
good
maybe,
long conversations
yeah,
with
get to
them.
know them a bit.
Yeah, spend some time.
So do you wanna talk about the duel?
I think I had one more
Okay,
thing.
let's go to that for sure.
Uh, maybe? Oh, the word rape.
Yes.
So I noticed in the movie that where a lot of people wanted to say rape, they paused and said something else.
Oh, like, okay.
Like took her against her will, or
Okay.
he bleh, I don't know, like use
I
some
was actually
other.
surprised that they used the word rape at all. Like, I was expecting there to be
Yeah,
some medieval term,
yeah.
and when she
Well,
was like, she just said rape, and I was like, "Oh, okay.
well,
We're just gonna talk about
I
it."
liked that she always used the word,
She did, yeah.
but the men
And
were
men
like
used, yeah.
pussyfooting around it,
Mhm, mhm.
and the men finally did use the word in the duel.
Yeah,
Um, but other than that, it was like I'm not even gonna say the R word. Like, I'm not gonna
yeah,
acknowledge it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good observation. I hadn't really considered that, but that's certainly true. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about the duel.
Let's talk about the duel. Again, I think my other worry when I got to this point in the movie was that we had this really deep, I feel like, examination of like this woman's struggle and the society that she was in. And like, now we're going to put two guys on a horse and like have them like fighty fight with swords. But once we got there, it didn't bother me. Because I still think Marguerite was front and center, and what was going on with her, and the way that everyone else was looking at it as entertainment was very gross. But
Yeah.
also like the way she was just like shackled up there. Um, Again, I think it was this example of taking something that we have been historically shown in movies as this like glorious moment of moral victory where you have the good guy and the bad guy up against each other and they're going to fight to the death and the good guy is going to triumph. And that's something that we've seen in these types of movies before, right? But
Mhm.
this, I think, really subverts it for a couple of reasons. One, like I said, you and I we were like, I don't know which one of you I'd like to die more right now. Like I didn't like Jean, I didn't like Jacques Legris. I didn't want either of them to triumph. The only thing was that I was like, well, I don't want Marguerite to burn at the stake. So I guess I want Jean to live long enough to complete the duel and then maybe die from infection of that gnarly ball wound that he got mid
Yeah.
duel. Anyway, I
Yeah.
don't know how you feel about that.
Oh yeah, it was definitely the same way. I think we kind of whispered about that in the
Hmm.
theater that like I wanted the same thing. Like I wanted Jacques to die in the duel, and then like Jean to
And then maybe Jean to have like a heart attack immediately afterwards.
yeah. But after she's unshackled and home safe.
Yeah. She's home and then Gene just like passes out at the table. He's got like a turkey leg and he's just like and he like chokes on a turkey bone or something. Um the other thing that I think other way that I think this really subverts, also the duel was very well shot. Like it was tense. You and I were literally squealing.
We were squealing.
We
We
were
were
squealing.
screaming.
I was
Yes.
hiding in your shoulder.
I
It
covered
was
my eyes a few times, like the
yeah.
death, the
Oh
final,
god. Oh god. Oh
the
god.
throat.
Oh
Yes.
god. When he shoves the knife through Adam's face, I was like, I fucking can't look at this shit. I cannot look
Yeah.
at it. Boy, does Adam know how to die. Um,
And then they dragged him through the street, and then they strung him up upside down, like, what?
yeah. So a couple things I wanted to touch on. One, the other way that this subverts, I think, that sort of typical like glory in battle thing is that to me, there's no victory here. There's no victory. Like, Marguerite still has to live her life in this society. She's going to go home to this man, and her life doesn't get any better, right? Jean leaves he gets all this like attention now, which is disgusting, as
Mhm.
being like the victor. And Jacques Legree dies thinking that he was right.
Mhm.
Like, Jean lives his life thinking that he did the right thing, which he really is still a bad husband and a terrible
Mhm.
person. And Jacques Legree dies thinking that he was right and that the
He
woman he
literally
loved.
screams at
Mhm.
him, "There was no rape. There
Yeah,
was no rape."
because that's what he really thinks.
Yeah.
And the society is not going to do anything to change either of them, or do anything to change things that could prevent this from happening to someone else in the future. So to me, there's no victory. And so I felt like that was an important uh subversion of that like jousting for heroes kind of thing.
Yeah.
The other thing I wanted to say was that it was really upsetting for me to watch the whole sequence of Jacques being like impaled on the knife and then his body left there and then stripped and hung up. And I know that that was a dummy. I know that, guys. I know it's a fucking dummy. But because we've been watching this actor's films for so long now and talking about them every fucking week, it is becoming hard for me to separate the actor from the character that's being played. And I understand that Adam is not Jacques Legree, and I know that that's a dummy hanging up, but it was still like I was like, I don't want to look at this. This is
Mhm.
upsetting for me. And have to wonder if had someone else been playing him, would I have been more out for blood than I was, knowing that it's Adam playing a character. And what does that say about the way we attach ourselves to actors who we don't actually know, who are literally playing a character? Anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there. I don't know how if that affected you in any way watching what was going on, or if you were completely just like, this is a character, I'm watching something fake.
Yeah, I'm less of an Adam fan
Mhm.
now than I was when we began this
Oh,
podcast, actually.
okay.
Um, just the more films I've seen, um,
You're not a fan of his work, or you don't like the characters he plays? I'm trying to parse this out.
all of it and him as a person, just like the
Okay.
more I've learned about his work and him as a person, I'm
Okay.
like, "Ee."
Okay.
But
Interesting. Sorry to have ruined that for you.
no,
I
no,
feel like
you
it's been the opposite for me, but
yeah. Um, no, so and I also have never really gotten attached to people I don't know.
mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
and so, uh, it was definitely like, it was upsetting for me to see a body, any
A
boss
human
body,
body.
a
Yeah.
human body, dragged and strung up like that. Like, that's upsetting no matter who it is. But yeah, I
Mhm.
can definitely see how, if that's someone you know,
Which I
like,
don't.
that's well, I mean, I guess it was definitely upsetting for me. Probably more upsetting than it would have been if it had been like a random person,
Mhm.
but less upsetting than if it had been like someone I know
Mhm.
personally.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, but that's not to say I don't like Adam. I don't respect him. I don't think he's a great a- a- actor. I just find him to be darker, I guess, than I originally
And
thought.
I'm like a reverse moth. I'm drawn to the darkness. I'm reverse mothing it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I get that. That's not your thing.
Yeah.
That's not your thing at all. So I totally see why
Yeah.
that is not as off-putting to you.
I'm more Andy. He's
Yeah.
silly and funny and cute.
Anyway, I just thought that gave me a pause where I was kind of reflecting on not just this movie and all of the filmography that we've done, but this whole podcast and the entire myth of a person, which I think is
Mhm.
something that we've talked about before. I think this came up for us when we were talking about the Bash Brothers. And we were
Mhm.
talking about the mythology of of a person out in the public, and how it's not really them, but it's like a myth of them, and that
Mhm.
the audience is like projecting certain things on them. And it had me sort of reflecting on my place in that as a person doing a podcast about an actor, or two actors
Mhm.
really, and also my place in a fandom where, like, I'm reading works that are written by people where they're taking characters that Adam has played and they're reimagining them and remixing them and writing them in different scenarios, and writing stories with two characters in the story together, and and tweeting about various different things about this person. And we're all just kind of like uh telling myths. We're telling myths because we all know that we don't know this person, but yet our fascination with them, our examination of them and their work, makes us feel. I feel like the term is parasocial. I feel like that's a term I've heard uh s- uh used in social media, that parasocial is when you and forgive me, tweet at me at Adam Andy Pod if it's someone whose podcast I listen to. I want to say it might have been the Barely Hanging On podcast, which is another Adam Driver podcast. If it was you guys, let me know. I've listened to a lot of shit lately. Not shit like bad shit. I mean, like, I've listened to a lot of stuff lately. And I'm wondering if you guys were the ones who brought up this idea of parasocialness. It might have been them. So Nikki and Lala over at the Barely Hanging On podcast, maybe the ones that originate this idea that when we are engaging with someone via their public persona or social media, we're developing this connection or this relationship with them that's very one-sided, and that's sort of what goes on with our the relationship that is created with us and celebrities and whatever myth it is that they are. Anyway, it just gave me a moment to reflect on that, because I was like, if this was literally any other actor, like, obviously I don't want to see a person stabbed through the face and then stripped and then hung up in this way. Like, nobody wants to see that and feel good about it. At least I don't think so. But I think I felt especially upset by it because it
Yeah.
was this particular
Yeah, I could
actor.
definitely tell that that was what was going on with you.
Yeah.
That it was a, 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 Adam and not. I'm like, if that had been Matt Damon, you wouldn't have had the same
No, I probably would have been like,
reaction.
like, I didn't need to
Yeah.
see, wow, his asshole is hairy. Like,
Ah!
come on, Gene's mullet is, he's got a mullet down there too.
Yes.
That's not the only
Yes.
place where the mullet is.
Yes.
On the top of his
Ugh.
head, ladies and gentlemen. If it had been Gene, I
Business in
probably
the
would have been
front,
like,
party in the back.
business in the front, party in the back. If it had been Gene, would I have had the same visceral reaction as I did? I don't. I don't know. I don't know.
I don't think so.
Probably not. The last thing I want to say is, what do you think this movie leaves us with? So I like that the movie ended on Marguerite, because it could have just ended with Gene like, rah, and Marguerite sitting on the horse behind him like, oh fuck, I can't believe I have to go home with this loser.
Yeah.
But it didn't. It ended with Marguerite and her son. So what do you think the movie leaves us with?
Yeah, I can't remember if I said this out loud or not, but it just reminded me, like, it was like, yeah, like, when you're raped and you get pregnant and you have a kid, like, that kid will always be from that rape. And I don't know if
We don't know whose kid it is, because they both raped her, essentially. but we can.
Oh,
I think the
right.
movie strongly suggests
Yeah.
that it was Jacques Legree in the movie. Again, we're not talking about the
Yeah.
real life scenario because actually Marguerite
Yeah.
had 3 children with Jean and may have already had, I don't know, may have already had
Oh,
children at the
okay.
time that this occurred. But in the
Oh, okay.
movie, I think the movie strongly implies that is Jacques Legree's child.
Yes. So I was just thinking, like, that was her look. That was like she was looking at her son, and she tilted her head, and she's like,
Remembering what
"Fuck."
happened. Yeah.
Like that is Jacques' child. I will always
I
have
mean,
Jacques'
look at the
child.
size of his hands. I'm just kidding. She
No, but
gives
that
him
was like to
she
me that was a
dangles a
very
rotisserie chicken in front of his face to see if he
no.
goes
That's just
for it.
like it was a really sad. Like it was like
Yeah.
this movie couldn't have ended in any other way but sad. But to me,
Yeah.
that was a really sad. Like,
It's interesting that you interpret that. So to you, the interpretation is I get to live another day. I get to be with my son, but every day I have to be reminded of this thing that happened to me. I think
mhm.
that's certainly a good, not good, but it's a good interpretation. But I mean, it's a
Valid.
valid interpretation. Thank you. I took it a different way. Here's how I took it. She's looking at her son, and she definitely has this moment where the smile falls away. And
Mhm.
you interpreted that in one way. The way that I interpreted it was her looking at him going, "What will my son what is my son going to grow up to be? Is my son going to grow up to be a good man who listens to his wife, who cares about her feelings, or is he going to continue to grow up in this society where he treats his own mother and other women like less than human?" That's kind of what I interpreted, that she was looking at him and realizing, I love him now and we have this relationship now where he looks up to me and where he loves me, but what are things going to be like when he grows up? How is he going to treat other women, and how will I be treated when he becomes a man? That's what I saw. And maybe
That's
that's
also
me
sad.
coming from a perspective of a parent, you
Yeah, and
know.
that's also sad to think of
Yeah.
because that society does. I mean, I have seen movies like that where like you see kind of the progression of like the boy growing up to be the man who like subjugates his own mom. Like
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
just like it's breaking,
Mhm.
but it's like yeah, like will you grow up to be a Jean or a Jacques or a Pierre or a? It's like what are
All of
the
them suck.
options?
Every
Yeah.
option sucks. Okay. Any final thoughts on I feel like I've said everything I can say. Any
Yes.
final thoughts on
Final thoughts. It's a well-made
yeah.
movie.
I think we're seeing in the theater. Definitely we're seeing in the theater. So if you're on the fence about it and you're not sure whether you should see it in the theater, I
Make
think
sure you see it in an empty theater with your best friend, and so you
so you
can
can
squeal
squeal
as loud as you want
so loudly. I
during
feel
the
like we
duel.
drove the one other person out that was in the theater. Now, Sarah and I saw it at like 4 p.m. on a Wednesday because that was the only day we could go together. And there was one other person in the theater. I'm pretty sure we drove them out with our squealing because
We were
during
like,
the duel, we were like, like,
and we were
um,
like looking away. We were like curled up
I
against each
remember when
other.
the knife went into Jacques' face. I was like, oh, there it goes. Oh, it's happening.
I
Oh,
looked away.
they're still showing it.
I know it was like blah, gross.
um, okay. Should I even ask you if you have any moments of thirst? Is this a question I should even ask?
I have three.
Oh my God, Sarah, I'm so excited. I can't wait to hear what your moments of thirst are.
Yeah,
Do you want to go first?
sure.
Okay, so our moments of thirst.
When Jacques reads Latin and like translates Latin stuff.
So hot.
Mhm.
I feel like my panties disintegrated.
Mhm.
The moment yes, so hot.
When he just the fact that he liked Marguerite's intelligence as much
Mhm.
as her
Mhm.
her her beauty.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then there's also at some point he's shirtless. I think that's also the scene where he does rape someone else, but
Oh
he
my
was shirtless,
God.
so it's
The
like
back
the
muscles.
back. Yes,
Oh my God. Oh my God.
the
Oh my
goal.
God. Oh my God. My face is so hot, right? Like my face is warm. I need the smelling salts. Somebody get me
Oh
the
my
smelling
God.
salts. I need to lay down on the chaise. When he took his shirt off, I was like, holy shit. It's also like at one point, again, this is not a romantic scene, but he's like, he picks up the woman at one point and like the muscles in his arms. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah.
This man.
Yeah.
I don't know what his regiment is. I don't know how many hours a day he spends working out, but good Lord. Sarah, those were incredibly good moments of thirst. There's one I thought you were going to say that you didn't.
What did you think?
There's a moment where he's like, he kisses the horse, like he's playing with the horse, and his horse, and he like gives the horse a kiss, and you like squealed a little next to me, like it was super cute. And I was like, that's gonna be, if Sarah has a moment of thirst, it's gonna be that.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because I know you like those cute moments.
Yes, yes.
So
okay, I'm gonna add that one. That's the fourth one.
Yes. Okay. I too had the back. I just wrote down back muscles, holy fuck. That is my note. I also have medieval Adam and his flowing locks. I just generally thought he looked really good in medieval garb. Like the satiny, billowy shirts, like the chainmail, and his hair, Sarah. I know that wasn't all his hair. I know that some of it was extensions, but it's just like, I feel like we have reached an era of peak Adam hair where like, I don't know how much better the hair can get. I don't know if we've reached the zenith of how good this hair is going to look. I feel like Marriage Story like really like kicked off the era. I mean, he's always had good hair, honestly, but like Marriage Story to now, it's just like we have reached a pinnacle of.
Well, get ready for House of Gucci.
I
hair
think
is
he's
like
wearing a fucking wig in House of Gucci,
I don't
right?
care. Like he wears a wig in like half of his films, like, but it's like
I think he's wearing extensions. I think these are extensions. I think he's got his hair is on top, and then maybe we're like making it longer. That's what I thought. But tweeted us at AdamAnyPod if you know what the hair situation is for Jacques Legris, because we know that that's not his real hair. But I do think that I don't think it's a full on wig. I think we're working with his hair. Plus, it's like when you get those videos that come up on Facebook and Instagram with the women and they like push the hair over the top of their head, and there's like they put a little some extensions in the mid part, and then they flop the hair back over, and then they suddenly have these very long. I think that's what we're talking about here. I think we're talking about extensions. But oh boy, the hair. I wrote in all caps, large man. Like he looks so large. I feel like they had all these low angle shots specifically designed to make him look gigantic. The chainmail and the armor makes him look so huge. And Sarah and I have had this, those of you that have been listening to the show, I've had this ongoing battle where Sarah's like, he's not that big. I remember I turned to you. There's like a scene when him and Marguerite, which we didn't even talk about how incredible the scene is and played out in all three ways. But when he meets Marguerite at the banquet that's outside where him and Jean are like making up or whatever for the public. Remember he comes out of the tent and it's like the tent, he's so tall that the tent, like he has to duck to get out of the tent, but everybody else is like standing under it normally. And there was like a flap of like like a flag in his face, and he had to like move it out of his way to just get out from under the tent. And I remember turning to Sarah and I was like, see, that is a large man. Have you been convinced yet of Adam's largeness after seeing this movie? Have you been swayed?
I need him to measure his shoulders, and I'll measure mine. And if it comes back that his shoulders are wider than mine, I will admit he is large.
Okay, he's absolutely larger than your shoulder span, Sarah. Tweeted us at AdamAnyPod. Who's got the hookup on Adam's shoulder measurements? Give us those shoulder deets, and we're going to compare them to Sarah.
Look at my shoulders.
Sarah, you are not Adam sized. Will you at least admit that he's tall?
He's 6'2".
He's 6'3", Sarah. I'm not going to have
6'3"?
this battle with you again. He's 6'3".
Okay. Okay.
And I don't know, how tall is Matt Damon? Let's find out. Because I feel like he made Matt Damon look diminutive. So how tall is Matt Damon? I wonder how many women have looked up how tall Matt Damon is.
He's
He
5'10".
is 5'10". Yeah, Adam
Ben Affleck is
towered over him.
6'4".
Oh, well, yeah, okay. I'd have to look at those scenes between him and Adam again. I don't think Adam looked smaller. I can't see that. I know what Wikipedia says, Sarah. I know what Wikipedia says, but Adam himself said that he's 6'3", and I'm going to go with what Adam said, not what Wikipedia said. So just his like general largeness was on display, and I was hot for it. And then lastly, I know this is 4, but we both had back muscles. Just his earnest brown eyes, those earnest eyes. I just could swim in them. I could drown in them. And those were my moments of thirst.
But doesn't he always have brown eyes?
Yes, but I felt like there were some moments where he looked particularly vulnerable and earnest in a
Yeah.
movie where I did not expect that, which I don't know why I wouldn't, because Adam always knows how to take a character who is selfish or villainous or broken. Like this is his bread and butter, to take someone
Mhm.
who's on the fringes of society or who we should not root for and give them humanity. That's like his superpower.
Yeah, I think that it still didn't work for me. Like I still didn't see his humanity. I saw that he did a great job. I'm not saying he didn't do a great job, but I'm saying that this character was so like I didn't like this character so much that there's nothing he could have done.
Sure. And I don't want to say that I sympathize with Jacques Legris, or that I think that he was in the right, or that I think that, he had any right to do what he did to Marguerite. I want to make it very clear that I don't think that, and I don't think the movie tried to make us think that. I just think that, as usual, Adam turned in a performance that was multidimensional. He gave this guy charisma, which makes sense because charisma is what helped Jacques Legris get to the station in life that he was. That's how he got there, was charisma. And his ability and his brain. He obviously was very smart, and he was able to do the numbers, the books for the king and all that, or the Count Pierre or whatever as well. But like Adam gave him humanity, and even if I don't think Jacques Legris deserves our sympathy, I think it makes for a much more interesting performance when that humanity exists.
As you would imagine, I'm normally up for pretty much anything in the bedroom, but I can't tell if what happened was weird or sexy.
All right.
So we're ready for some Adam and Andy trivia?
Just Adam.
Oh, that's right. It's Adam this week.
So it's actually Adam. Last Duel trivia because like I found let's see. Sorry, hold on.
No, man. The anticipation that I'm feeling right now is palpable.
Okay.
Look at my dog back there just like trying to get comfortable. Oh, he found a spot. He's like, how dare you podcast without me?
So this is actually about Matt Damon.
All right.
Matt Damon can't grow facial hair.
So I'm sorry. That's so cruel of me to laugh at. God, that's so cruel of me to laugh at. Oh, poor Matt Damon.
Yeah. So the makeup department had to try out 20 different beards to apply to Matt Damon's face. He reportedly got a skin rash underneath a stuck-on beard, which was so irritating that he had to be treated with ice packs after every scene.
Oh my God. That's terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And for that facial hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Sarah, I have to send you this photo. Somebody took like those like 80s like sunglasses like that, like a trucker would wear, and just like photoshopped them on his face, and was like, this is like every high school football player in Florida in the 1990s. And I was like, oh God.
Yeah.
So the suffering that Matt Damon did for this role, not just the suffering to have to wear this haircut, but to have ice packs on your chin. I applaud you, sir.
I have one more
Oh, I'm ready.
piece of trivia. I don't
I'm
know
ready
if
for this piece.
you know this. You might
I don't
know
know.
this. Guess what other movie Jodie Comer appeared in with Matt? I'm not sorry, not Matt. With Adam Driver. You know, don't you?
I do
Okay,
know.
which one?
She played Rey's mother in The Rise of
Mhm.
Skywalker. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Aw.
That's okay though, because that was a very obscure part.
Yeah.
The reason I know is because everybody was really excited that she was in the movie, but then when her part was so small, everybody was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
So,
They could have cast a- anyone in that role.
and I don't know if this has been said enough, but Jodie Comer dominated this fucking movie.
Yeah.
Dominated it. Like even like her scenes with Adam, they were great together. I think that she stood out as the true like dynamo performance of this film.
Yeah.
Oh, you look awesome. Come the fuck upstairs.
Okay.
But wait, I have to warn you about something.
What?
If you come up here, I'm gonna tie you to my bed and keep you for at least 3 days. I'm just in that kind of mood.
You ready to talk about what we're watching next time?
Yes.
So
it is B99.
B99. We're circling back to B99. We don't need to spin the wheel this week because we know that we're watching B99 season 8. So let's see. We're gonna watch 2 more episodes. Okay. Oh, Sarah, we only have 4 episodes left until we get to the end of season 8. So here we go. Next episode, Game of Boils. Terry, Jake, and Charles visit the Boyle family farm. Amy and Rosa help out Captain Holt. So we're going to see Terry, Jake, and Charles visiting the Boyle family farm.
Of course they have a farm.
Of course they do. Maybe they'll make some sourdough bread while they're there. So that's Game of Boils. I'm excited about that. That seems fun. Also, I guess that makes sense because Jake's suspended, right? He got suspended. So now we got to figure out how to keep him in the story. Renewal is the next episode. The squad comes together to work on an important high stakes case. So I don't know if we're gonna skip over Jake's suspension and at some point. I'm really curious how they're gonna handle that. But that's your next episode. Your next episode, Game of Boils and Renewal. So there we go. Listeners, this is going to be a supersized episode. I think not since we tried to unravel the plot of Logan Lucky have we talked this long, Sarah. So before we go, do you want to drop us a little bit of the deets for your Instagram account that you've started?
Oh, sure. So I have a new Instagram account. It's called Hedgehodges Bodpos, HEDGEHODGES_BODPOS. And it's basically an account where I post pictures of my makeup and clothing, which I'm very interested in, and also talk about my relationship with my body and my weight and my appearance and how society kind of had a big influence on that, as it has an influence on all of us. And I know not a single woman who has been untouched by that, no matter what their mom said or what their sister said, or I had a mom who's very supportive who didn't talk about weight at all, and I still felt, the ways that I did. So it's like, so yeah, that's just like kind of like my story with makeup that I like to do and clothing that I like to wear. So it's just like selfies basically.
And your story.
And old pictures. And my story. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great account. And I think, a story a lot of us can relate to. And I think it's good to put something positive out there in the universe.
I know, like, when I go on Instagram, I like to sometimes, if I'm not looking at my friends' posts, I like to look at just, like, other plus-size women, just seeing, like, wow, they're fat and they are loving life. Like, it's just, like,
it
great
feels
to
really
see.
good.
Yeah.
It feels really good. And I know I've said this before, but damn, I wish I had something like that when I was younger and really hating myself very deeply.
I would have loved to see that that was an option, that it would
That you
that
can love
it,
yourself.
you can be
Mhm.
okay if you are fat, that if you gain weight, you can still be loved, you still are a worthy person,
You're beautiful.
you're still attractive, like,
Mhm,
yeah.
mhm. So, great account. So everybody check that out. And listeners, if you want to chat with us about The Last Duel, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Adam and Andy Podcast, and you can find us on Twitter at Adam Andy Pod. And man, I'm glad we finally got to sit down and talk about this movie. And
No.
I'm looking forward to getting back to our pals at the 9-9 next time. So
Yeah.
we'll see you guys then.